All right. Welcome, everybody. This is our July 7th, 12 o'clock Freedom Builder call. Hey, just wanted to start off by saying hopefully everybody had a happy and safe 4th of July. You know, Independence Day is always an exciting thing. I love the word independence, and no question that's what we are here. But what we wanted to do today is do a specific training. You know, Corey Scandon. Corey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Corey is a VP with us and down in Egg Harbor, just outside of Atlantic City in New Jersey. And we've been working together for, a good, 6 or 7 months. And Corey has put together a system in a sense that he uses when he meets with the client. Now, a lot of us are doing things, are you in front of your computer and we're bringing them to a video. Well, Corey, I believe, and his numbers show that, has created a system whereby when you sit down with the person, what does he do? So what I wanted to do is just, kind of have a little dialogue with Corey first, and then I'm going to just kind of turn the mic over to him. Brian's working the slides. But, Corey, I know that, you're full-time in the business, right, Corey?
Yes.
And, what you found is a way for you to sit down with somebody. I mean, give us your if you would, just share with everybody your psychology as far as when you met with someone, what you felt you needed, and then just go right into what you do.
Well, I felt like I needed organization. So I know that if you do something and you're repetitious in what you're doing, you get better at it. So if your presentation with the customer is the same each time, man, I kill this thing now because I'm doing it the same every time. So I start with the customer and I'm more confident. I think of other things to say. I'm spending more time with the customer interacting instead of what do I say next. Instead of the customer leading the conversation, I'm completely in control, and it's done a lot for my business.
That's great. And what you've done is you've just kind of put together some slides, which is a compilation of material that we have here. And, maybe we can take just a few minutes here, go through them real quickly, and maybe things you point out on these slides. But I really want you to get to your calculator, which is leading you to more closing. So go ahead, Corey.
The slideshow itself is not, it's not even that important what's on there. It's that it leads me and it leads the customer in a direction, and it leads me to, it leads me a little bit about myself. It leads me into a little bit about our company, and I just point out on a slide like this that you're dealing with with companies that have been around forever, 1905, 1848, 1854, 1851. So these are companies that are billions of dollars in assets. They're not going anywhere. So that's the companies that we represent. And that right there takes the question away. So the slides that I have here, again, help me be more confident with the customers. And I address two things, living benefits and tax-free retirement. So you can click through this. I'll stop you. It's really, here's the solution, living benefits. I touch on, what they do for people and why I'm so passionate about it, why I'm full-time in this business. Next slide. Here's a person, as an example, that he had to live up until the day before he died because he had to provide for his family. He had the old type of life insurance. Here's Rosa's story. She got to enjoy $350,000 check while her children, and he bought her children a house, or both of them homes, while she was still alive. So next, every policy that we write is with Freedom Equity Group has living benefits. And so only 1% of the country has living benefits on their policies, so we're passionate about changing that. Next slide. Next, we get into tax-free retirement. So without going through specifically, we go through Brother A and Brother B. Everybody, I'm sure everybody's on this call has seen Brother A and Brother B, but we give examples here of what that means to them, and what tax-free retirement does for them. So next slide. Indexed Universal Life. It talks about distribution next, or here, indexing. So this is a slide. If you put $100,000 in at the S&P in a mutual fund, you'd have $102,000 versus $213 our way. So red line, blue line is next. So I'm just talking about concepts, and I'm really answering questions before the customer has any. And the customers, I get to the end of this presentation and they say, what's next? So here's IUL versus distribution of a 401k. Again, concepts. Next slide. This is it. We take the if out of life. If you live too long, if you die too soon, or if you get sick along the way, we can provide you with a better lifestyle for your family. So next slide is just a thank you slide, kind of finish up, and then I have a list of books. So it's not just me saying this, because people say after this presentation, a lot of times they would say, why haven't I ever heard of this? Well, there's a lot of people. Just go on Amazon and look at the books that you can buy that cover what I'm talking about today. And so anyway, this adds some validity, but the key is, for me, is I know what I'm doing every time I go into an appointment now. It's exactly the same. So the calculator I go to next. After I get done with the presentation, let's look a little bit at your scenario. Now, this scenario that's actually in there right now is a deal that I closed this morning. $1,000 a month IUL is what he did, a $510,000 IUL, where he's putting $1,000 a month into it. But what I'll do now is I'll take their current situation. So if somebody has a 401k, I put in their numbers. If somebody doesn't have a 401k and they're just starting out investing, I'll say to them, well, let's look at your options. Your options are mutual funds or stocks. Those are taxed annually, and they are not the best cash accumulators for a nest egg. Then you have an IRA, or you have a 401k with your company. Those are all options. And to be honest, I say a 401k is the number one way for you to accumulate cash. So I'll go through, and let's just use this example. This was a person from North Jersey that closed this morning. The investment, he puts $625 a month into his 401k. His company matches 100% of the money. In the second slide, you put in whatever their match is. The total investment then is $1,250 per month, and the annual investment is $15,000. His current value of this 401k, because he is investing in it currently, is $9,500. And you just punch in those numbers. Next, I say, do you know what kind of rate of return are you getting on that? Or depending on their situation, and if they say, well, I'm only getting 3%, well, I say, well, let's take 8.5%, because that's the history of the S&P over the last 30 years, is between 8 and 8.5%. Okay, and the policies that I run on you, the Indexed Universal Life, we're going to run those at 8.5%. So let's compare apples to apples. If they say I get 12%, I put 12% in there, because it doesn't matter. The IUL still is a better, more efficient vehicle during retirement. The annual fee, I coach them through this, and I say to them, the annual fee, Time Magazine put out an article and said that the annual fee in a 401k, the average 401k, is 2.9%. So I punched 2.9% in there. So if you could do that for me, put 2.9, and look what happens to the account value. It goes down to 371. So now I just say, let's put 0 in there, because this is the part of your 401k that you don't know about. Look what happens. It goes from 371 to 451. So that, or I'm sorry, 491. So it's $129,000 that they don't talk to you about if you have 0 versus 2.9. But I say, I don't know what your fee is. So let's use well below average. Let's put in a 2% fee. Some people might say, well, mine are low because of this. We'll put whatever they say. And I like this because I'm getting interaction with the customer, and they feel a part of building this. So again, gone a long way for confidence for me. Their current age, his current age was 50 years old. He wants to retire at 65. He's got 15 years to invest. This is the pot of money that you will have at retirement. So I say to him, okay, this is the $404,000 that you're talking about. And so next I go to, this is the pot of money that you would have. I go to the retirement down there, the retirement tab. Go ahead and click on that. And it's got $404,000 is the total pot of money. I don't know what the future, so I say I don't know what your future taxes are going to be. We do talk about taxes a little bit here, and most of the time, because we're in a high tax state, we come to somewhere between 25 and 30%. Again, it's not, I don't know what the future is going to bring during your retirement, so let's use something lower than average. Let's use something low just so you can get some real numbers. So I put in here into the tax bracket 25%. Sometimes it's 30. People say, oh, I know it's going to be more. So and whatever they tell me is kind of what I do. If they don't know, I use 25%. But I make sure that they know that that's low. Next, I go to the income. Now, it says IUL income, but the reason that IUL income, I already ran policies for these people, okay? So when I run a policy for someone, I put whatever that income is. In this case, this person's IUL would give him $31,000. So if you put $31,000 in the income section for me, please. This person is going to run out of money at age 79. So you can look at a couple columns here. So the first column is the value, and you see that it's decreasing. One thing that the IUL doesn't do, okay, the value will not decrease. So when you take money out, I explained again, remember we talked about in the slideshow, we talked about the fact that it never comes out of your account because it's a loan. You're going to have to take out $41,300 to get $31,000 of income. That's costing you $10,300 per year, okay? So $10,300 per year there. Now let's move over to the growth column. At 8.5%, you made $30,000 that year, but your fees on your account are $78.82. So you have $10,300 plus $78 is roughly $18,000 per year that it's costing you to get $31,000. $18,000 to get $31,000. Okay? So now what I say, the point that I make here now is this vehicle of a 401k is a great cash accumulator, but it works very inefficiently during retirement when it's most important to you when you're accessing that money. And you can see that if you take $18,000 out, of costs to get $31,000, it's a lot of money. It's not efficient, and that's why you can outlive the income during retirement with a 401k. And lastly, now what I do is I go to the IUL and I show them my policy that I put together for him that's going to give him $31,000 tax-free. So I'll say to him, you've got 100% in this customer. I said, you have 100% match. I don't want to tell you to give up free money. You've heard all your life, don't give up free money. 401k with a match is a good thing, and not a lot of companies give 100% match. In your case, I know you want to keep this. So let's be more realistic, and I go to the income and I put $25,000 in. So if I put $25,000 in, you'll see that lasts you a heck of a lot longer. So now in your 401k, if you continue to do what you're doing, you'll be able to live off of $25,000 take home. But with the $1,000 extra a month, you don't want to add that to your 401k. You don't want to put it in mutual funds. You want to do what's called an IUL. And now I've run that policy with $1,000 a month, and now I show him that between the two, you should diversify. Diversify not only your investments, but you're going to diversify your type of investments and type of effect with taxation in your future. So everybody's heard diversify. This is a great way to diversify your portfolio. So last thing that I do, after I show him the income, $31,000 that he can't outlive, I show him the expenses. Now, I don't have that up for you, but hopefully anybody that can run IUL with Anico, you can run an expense report. And at age 65, the last thing that I think is so important, I go to the expense report on his specific IUL, and in this case, this policy costs him $2,100, only because I know the number. At age 65, in order to get $31,000 tax-free, he's able to take $31,000 tax-free with only $2,100 in fees. So then I make the point of, look at what we're talking about here. You have $8,000 in fees on your 401k, plus the taxes are a fee. It's $8,000 there. So you're talking about $16,300 total fees in your 401k. And with the IUL, it's only $2,100 during retirement. That's why you can get more money. And, oh, by the way, for that cost, you have living benefits, an income you can't outlive, and tax-free retirement and money that you can pass on to your beneficiaries tax-free. And I stop there, and people just go, why don't people talk about this? What's our next step is what I'm getting. I've answered all the questions in the slideshow. I've approached where they're headed. I've approached the change of where they're going and what it can mean for them. And then finally, what is it going to cost me? At the end of this thing now, they just don't have questions anymore. I'm not getting people that delay. They want to get it started as soon as possible. So it's done a lot for me, and I'm real excited about it. It's helped me become better because I'm doing it the same each time.
Well, Corey, that's excellent, buddy. I mean, I can hear the excitement in your voice, and I know the numbers are coming in. You've told me the kind of success you're having, and that's all as a result of you having, I think the key word here is you've kind of organized your own thoughts here. So you know when you go in to see somebody, you're presenting the same thing every time, so that you're more comfortable with your presentation. Secondly, you're putting this in, you're putting it in front of them in black and white. I like the points you made. It's costing you $8,000 to get this money out, whereas it could be $2,100. Or it's costing you $18,000 when you include the taxes. And let's face it, if you up that tax rate, like you've said to me, in New Jersey, there's a pretty significant state tax rate also. So you may be 5% federal, but then you add another 10% for the state, that's 35%. Well, that's going to come out of that money.
Yep.
It's going to bring those numbers way down. So, Corey, do this here. I know that you really started doing this now for the last couple of weeks. Tell me the results, if you would, or share your results. You've had, would you say you're like 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 over the last week or so?
Yeah, I'm actually 100%, and I've closed 4 policies in the last. Well, actually, I started this 2 weeks ago, and I closed 3 policies this morning and 2 policies, one policy last Thursday. So the 2 weeks that I've been using this now are already turning into money, and it's not taking forever because people understand it. The other thing that this is helping me with is people that, even for recruiting, my numbers for referrals are up because I show people this, and they get it. So now they're saying, wow, I get it now. I don't have to learn so much. It just simplifies it for people, and I'm getting more referrals. In fact, I got text messages over the weekend that, hey, I got somebody you got to meet with next week. And so I think it simplified things to where people can actually take the sale and talk about it and duplicate it. We duplicate the list in the system, but now we have to sell. Something has to be sold to make money. For me, this has given me the confidence to sell more deals and for people to refer me more deals.
Fantastic.
So.
Hey, Brian, I noticed that there is some, I don't know if those are questions or comments in the question or chat area there. Are there any specific questions for Corey?
I did see one about the Roth IRA, and you can punch those numbers in too. The problem with the Roth, and the Roth is a valid option for people. I don't necessarily fight people on it. I just say that you need to diversify. We can punch in numbers with a zero tax bracket, and but when you take the money out of the account, unlike the IUL, when you're actually drawing the money down, it's not going to perform as well as the IUL. You're still going to get less, even in the zero tax bracket. So the Roth, punch those numbers in. You know, people can. It is a valid option, but they don't have living benefits. They can't borrow from it. They have to wait till they're 59 and a half. You know, all those rules you still gotta follow, and ultimately the money is drawn down. So the IUL will still outperform it.
Well, I think the other thing too, which is real important, there's no 100% match in Roth. Okay?
Correct.
So with this illustration, that calculator was run with a 100% match in a 401k, which is usually not the case today. In fact, if you go back to that first screen, Brian, and you take out and put 25% match there, as opposed to 100, you have to just put 25 there, and now look at the numbers. Now go to the next page, and now let's talk.
Right.
Okay? Because most people do not have a 100% match. Most people today are getting a 25% match. Some may be getting 50. The other thing you have with Roth is you have limitations on how much money you can put in. So you're not going to be able to put $15,000 a year in a Roth. Okay? So that's the other consideration. But even if you gave them the benefit of the doubt, it's still going to blow it away. And I mean, I think, you know, too, Corey, which I know you're doing, let's remember, folks, when they write the first check, let's say it's $500, and send that to Anaco, and Anaco cashes the check, that person has life insurance and living benefits. When you send that $500 into your 401k or Roth IRA, guess what you have if something happens? $500. So putting it all in perspective, there's a lot of benefits here, you know, right out of the gate, okay? So I'm not sure. I'm having a little trouble reading the screen here. This is great, Corey. Can you explain why and where the $25,000 income comes from? That really comes from you running an IUL. So if you've got a 50-year-old person, you're putting those numbers into an illustration, and as a result, it's spitting out a number. But you can put any number there. You know,
yeah, and the other thing with that is you want to, that's where you get some interaction. I'm showing them with where they're headed in an IRA 401k, that they're going to be able to draw about $25,000 out per year. I'm sorry, take home per year where they're headed. So I make that number up to start with. Then when I get to the IUL, I punch in that number that the IUL would bring and show them how quickly it will run out of their 401k.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Great stuff. I don't know if there were any other comments there or questions. Brian, do you have questions?
No, I phenomenal stuff, simple and easy to use. And I like the fact, Corey, that you know, you're on their side of the table. It's interactive. It's their numbers, and you know, when it's all said and done, you know, the results are what speak loudly, right? And you're getting great results with it. And of course, lots of folks have chimed in here on, you know, all the stuff that we've already known. The thing that I like about it is, again, it's interactive, and we can show them right there that this is a smarter, more complete alternative, and here's your numbers. This is what you're doing. So I think it's phenomenal. Let's just see if there's any other questions. Very good. Love the simplicity. And, of course, we already posted the spreadsheet. Thank you, Corey, for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. Well,
posted
one of my guys actually made the spreadsheet. So I made the slideshow. He made the spreadsheet. We worked together to kind of simplify so that we could duplicate the sale with a customer. So he just to give Jared Fitzpatrick props.
Thank you, Jared. Any other questions, comments? Super call. Super.
Yeah, fantastic. And, just to kind of round this off, Corey, I appreciate you, taking the time. You're a pro, a really good guy. Really enjoy working with you, and I appreciate you putting this together and then sharing it with the team so that everybody can benefit. So that's kind of what our, the Freedom Builder team is all about, is people sharing success stories. And it's great. I mean, I can hear the difference in your voice. I can see the production coming in. I know you're feeling good about what you're doing, and that's really what matters. And of course, again, as always, the proof is in the pudding. When you're putting business in the pipeline, this is going to increase your recruit. Here's the things that I heard. It's recruiting is easier because people get it, so they understand it. They have a simple system that they can work off of, which means that recruiting becomes more profitable as well, right? See, it's not just about recruiting, it's about building, right? And how do we build? Well, it's people making money. Well, this is a simple system you put together that when you do sit down in front of somebody, here's what you do, and you have a formatted system. So this is fantastic. Again, thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. And if we don't have any other final comments here, Brian, we can click off the recording, and if we want to try to open up the line, if anybody has any comments or questions.